From the people who brought you Hello Kitty comes Chirin's Bell, the story of an adorable little lamb who loves to frolic in the meadow, eating clover, playing with the other lambs, and meeting new friends like adorable bunnies and silly gophers, all under the watchful and caring eye of his loving mother. Until she's brutally murdered by a wolf, causing him to flee into the wilderness in a rage where he lives in exile, begging the wolf to teach him his ways until he grows up to become the very thing he hates most. A family story for the kids. Hey everyone, welcome back to I Heart Animation. As you can tell, today's video is a little bit different. I'm experimenting with different formats and I thought I'd try a full voiceover. But mostly I just had the idea for the introduction and I really wanted a way to make that happen. Today I'm going to be talking about the Japanese animated short film Chirin's Bell. Also, in case you were planning to give this movie a watch, consider this your spoiler warning because I'm going to be talking about the movie in depth right up until the incredibly dark and depressing ending. So if you wanted to have yourself a fun-filled movie night with Chirin's Bell, then you probably better just skip this video. If you are still interested in watching this movie after this video, and I'm sure some of you will, and others certainly will not, it is available on YouTube, both in the original Japanese with subtitles as well as an English dub. However, if you want my opinion, do not watch the dub. It is terrible. Normally, I'm all for dubs, but that's probably because I've been spoiled with Studio Ghibli releases, which have been done excellently in recent years by Disney and G-Kids. This is not a Studio Ghibli release. Seriously, don't watch the dub. The direct Japanese translation subtitles are so much better. So yeah, anyway, this movie is incredibly dark. And when I say movie, it's not really quite long enough to be a movie. It's more like a long, short film. It's really only about 45 minutes, but that was plenty long enough for me. Not that this was a bad movie, it certainly wasn't. However, I can't say it'll be one I'm eager to return to. So as I said in the beginning, this is the story of a lamb whose mother is murdered. And not just murdered, she literally dies on top of him, saving his life from a wolf, causing a full 2-minute long scene of Chirin snuggling with his mother's dead body, realizing she's dead, and then wailing and sobbing and thrashing around all over his mother's body, begging her to wake up, all while the other sheep look on in horror and sadness. Holy cow, was this scene dark. And it really only gets darker from there. It starts out all sweet and innocent. Chirin the lamb really wouldn't look too out of place in a Hello Kitty cartoon, and that's because he was literally created by the same company. Sanrio, the makers of Hello Kitty, are also behind this adorable and depressing short film. Are you the kind of person who thinks Bambi is too upbeat and carefree? Well, if so, I think Chirin's Bell might be right up your alley. Chirin's Bell is like if, instead of Bambi being raised by his father after the death of his mother, sought out the hunters who killed his mother and insisted they teach him how to use a gun, and then turned around and shot up the forest before ultimately turning on the hunters himself, and then lived out the rest of his days in exile. Because that's pretty much what happened in this film, except it was a wolf instead of humans, and Chirin insisted that the wolf teach him his ways. Once he got his horns, he joined the wolf on his hunts, and yes, he used them to kill. Why? I don't know. The wolf needed to eat, so at least that made sense. Chirin just kind of went insane after his mother died. In the end, after the wolf orders him to murder a barn full of his fellow sheep, he finally realizes what he's become and he turns on the wolf and kills him instead. You'd think that would mean a redemption and a happy ending, right? Wrong. This ain't no Disney movie. Instead of being grateful that Chirin saved them from the wolf, the sheep are terrified of him. Which is understandable, since he did murder the entire pack of watchdogs that had been guarding them before he finally realized what a monster he'd become. So instead the sheep locked themselves in the barn, leaving Chirin to wander sadly back into the mountains, where he mournfully begs for the wolf's forgiveness for killing him, and lives out the rest of his days alone. The end. So yeah, that was Chirin's Bell. I actually think I might be glad I watched this, because it was so incredibly different than anything else I've ever seen. But at the same time, I don't know how likely I'll be to revisit it. It was just too dark, and I far prefer to watch things that make me happy. If this had been a happier story, even if they changed nothing about it until the end and made it a story about redemption, I think I would look at it differently. But the fact that Chirin himself became just as dark and evil as the wolf, even if he realized at the end he was wrong, it just kind of killed the mood a bit for me. If you're a fan of animation as well as dark stories or tragedies, then I think I probably would recommend this one. But if you just wanted a happy story about an adorable lamb, I think you should look elsewhere. So I think that's going to be all for today's iHeart Animation. I haven't decided what new obscure film is coming next, but I think next week I will be starting a brand new series, the Disney Movie Marathon. This is something that I've wanted to do for a very long time, and we're going to be starting at the very beginning of the Walt Disney animated canon and working our way to the end, whatever that happens to be when I get there. And I'm planning to have a guest with me for every episode of that series, and for now, for most of the episodes, my cousin Sarah will be joining me. And next week we'll be kicking off the series with Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. We'll see you then. Bye. 尋ねる人もない